There is a pressure on every political party on giving freebies. The BJP was one party that said that it wouldn't get into this trap of freebies. I want to ask you, the Delhi election alone, before that Maharashtra elections, before that Madhya Pradesh elections, the schemes, Ladli Behna, direct transfers to bank accounts under one scheme or the other, isn't this freebie? And are we falling into the trap of this freebie? Is there no political consensus? Of course there is no political consensus, but is the BJP falling into the same trap that it said it wouldn't?
I think what the BJP is doing is understanding what's the fiscal strength of a state. And only if they think that in that state, that scheme can be sustained, they offer it.
Maharashtra's fiscal condition is not very great.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you talking about
they have
Punjab?
So much debt? No, are we talking about comparison? No, I'm just saying that Maharashtra has a huge debt.
Yes, every state has debt. Central government has debt. But if you have the ways and means to meet up with that, and if you think you are able to generate enough resources and revenue for it, you're welcome to come with a scheme through your budgetary process. What many of the states did earlier was to announce Freebie and not take it to their assemblies. Enough examples exist. And also not pay. For instance, there are states which announced farmer loan waiver, which was actually executed through the banks. Many of them didn't even pay the banks. There are long dues to the banks which have honored the commitment of a particular state government. But banks are funded by the center. Their equity is held by the center. They have committed to honor a particular loan waiver scheme. The state government is supposed to fund it. There are delays in money coming, there are delays in money being received, and there are sometimes money not being received at all. So you give a promise only when you can keep it up. And you give a promise only when you put it as a part of budgetary activity so that your assembly, the elected body, gives you the authority to do it. You can't just give a promise and not fulfill it, or fulfill it at somebody else's cost. Those are objectionable.
But Delhi is a revenue surplus budget. Why do you then attack Arvind Kejriwal so much?
Karnataka was a revenue surplus state. Look at the way it has become revenue deficit now. Himachal Pradesh gave promises under the Congress again. They are not able to fulfill. And they would say, not Himachal Pradesh, Karnataka would say, Modi ji, hame paisa nahi de rahe. You give the promise, you get the vote, you come to power, and you want Modi to fund it?
But you're falling into the same trap.
Not at all. I would say BJP is a lot more discerning on this. They look at how they can fund it. If they can fund it to that extent, it is only that.
So you have actually amended your situation. You are not saying Revdi politics should be done away with. What you are saying is Revdi politics hum bhi karenge, hum thoda provision karke karenge, ye bina provision. No, that's a change in position.
No. Revdi is when you give promises without any kind of backing. And it is just a, giveaway without even having an asset creation or without having any benefit towards the economy in terms of contribution.
2500 रुपए जो महिलाओं को दिल्ली में दे रहे हैं, कौन सा asset creation हो रहा है?
No, at least the home expenses are taken care of.
So that is not asset creation for the government.
But if you can afford it, no, that is at least consumption, right? So, if you can afford it, give it. If you can't afford it, don't load it to the aane wale peediyan. Next generation debt. But it's a state which can generate enough resources for it.
Then why does it have so much debt?
For construction, for capital expenditure, like the way we do. For capital expenditure, Navika, since you go into details of economy, I'll say this.
Capital expenditure?
Just a minute. What is my fiscal deficit? For projected 25, 26, 4.4, right? What is my number given for capital expenditure to the GDP? Fiscal deficit is deficit on the GDP. Now, what is my capital expenditure? Capital expenditure is 4.3% of my GDP. 4.4 for the fiscal deficit, 4.3 is this one. What does that mean? My borrowing, which is my fiscal deficit, goes for capital expenditure, asset creation. That's the way I'm going. And it's also the way in which I'm going so that my 26, 27 onwards, My focus will be on reducing debt to GDP. I'll keep an eye on my fiscal deficit, but debt to GDP, because there was a committee under N.K. Singh, long time back, which said your borrowing should come down to 50% at least. 60 for the central government, 40 for state governments, a different combination. I am committing myself, which I said in July budget, that I'll bring it down to 50% level by 2030. I've given a path, glide path for it. I've given a clear roadmap to say how I'm going to achieve that. So equally, there are measures being taken to make sure your debt position is improved. You're not going to burden the future generations, but if you're borrowing, you will borrow it for quality expenditure, for creating assets. That's the principle with which
Mr. Chidambaram says all you need to do is get out of the way.
Which is what all of us have been. Who introduced this line? We will have red carpet for business and remove the red tape. Who brought in this where government should not be in business, we should be out of it? Who brought that in? Prime Minister Modi. Minimum government, maximum governance. Who said it? Prime Minister Modi. So what is the opposition speaking about it now?
But